Good evening, Sutton.
Good evening.
How are you doing in those crazy times?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually okay.
You're in Copenhagen, right?
Because I'm in Copenhagen. Yeah. I left New York just around when this COVID-19 started going crazy. I left New York for different reasons. So right now I'm in Copenhagen, but I do miss New York.
What was the reason going to New York?
I like it was a mix of like a lot of different things. It was the possibility to get some work. It was family. Like it was a lot of different things. And I actually always wanted to go somewhere else than just stay in Copenhagen. I mean, I've always been traveling a lot, but wanted to live somewhere else, and so when the possibility to live and stay in New York came up, I just grabbed it, and I really love New York for all the things that are there. It's really like it feels like if you take like a part of the whole world, like small parts of each place, and then that is New York. There's so many different cultures, and it's just really like an amazing city.
I think we produced the 5 minutes video in, I think it was 2014, right? Wasn't it? Or 15?
Yeah, 14 or 15. I can't remember.
Because I remember the last words in the 5 minutes was something about Copenhagen and that is getting boring here and there and blah, blah, blah. You remember?
Yeah. I mean, I just guess that, I'm the type of person that likes adventure, like to see new things. I don't basically I can't remember when I've been staying in the same place, for such a long time as I have now during this whole pandemic, where it's impossible to travel. It's, I mean, it's good for some things and bad for others, but I do miss traveling.
Yeah. So let's get back when you started graffiti, late 90s or something, wasn't it?
I started tagging in the late 90s, but piecing came early 2000s.
And you were really into this, because you were also talking in the 5 minutes about Dundee and all this stuff about all these movies, books, etc. When you know all this, going to New York in 2015 to live there. I mean, you've been to New York before, right? Before you moved there.
Yeah, of course. I went there a couple of times, so.
But still, it's the motherland.
yeah. Of course, New York is the motherland.
How you experienced it? Well, let's give you the question in a different way.
Yeah.
When you started to experience New York, when living in a flat in New York and having a job in New York, etc., what is the first thing you experienced there? Is it graffiti, or is it the culture?
To be honest, even though I kind of grew up, when I started graffiti, with New York graffiti, that, as you said, with Dundee, I studied so much of all that stuff, the FC crew, so many classic styles. But honestly, when I came there, I was more, painting with the younger guys, I've been, concentrating on the story for so many years. So when I came to New York, it wasn't the most important. Not that it isn't important, but it wasn't the most important. So I think for me, moving to New York, I was more blown away about the culture there, the lifestyle, the way people are, real New Yorkers, they are a special kind of breed, I think everybody that knows somebody, can agree on this, but, again, it's for the good and the bad, but, you're never in doubt if you meet people that are actually from New York.
So you started meeting people from your generation, more likely.
Yeah, I was chilling, with people from my own generation, like that had, the same appetite for painting, like, again, I had already studied the history so much, so I wasn't really looking for having this whole story told again. I was more hungry for, going out painting myself, going out painting walls, whatever. That was the thing,
So is there and question that I am interested in is what is left from the magic city of New York when it comes to graffiti and hip hop? I mean, you could ask someone traveling there, and now I can ask someone who lived there for more than like 5 years.
What is left?
Is this a hard question?
Yeah, I think it is a hard question. Like, I guess that like there's still some of the magical places. Like they are still left. Like you can still go to the train yards. Like these places, and like probably get a feeling of how and what, and it was, and you can probably see some old tags, from back then. But besides that, I think, like New York has changed a lot, like over the years. Also, if you see like older photos, like just from the 90s, people going there, like Manhattan was like, had like a lot of like bad neighborhoods and shit, like now most of Manhattan is like a Disneyland.
That's what also I could see myself.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And how about walls? To paint like legal walls? Is there like plenty of walls, or is it?
I think like the big difference was like in most parts of like Europe, like we used to have like these kind of classic Hall of Fames where like everybody can just go and paint. Like New York just don't have that. Like everything is like private walls, where like there's a couple of guys that have the like the permission. So it's more like people have like their own walls, like where they kind of decide, like how often they rotate.
So you can't go New York and just paint somewhere. This is more or less impossible.
I mean, like there's like a handful of shops that have like walls connected to the shop where you can kind of like paint if you like you buy the spray paint in the shops. That's kind of like the kind of open walls, if you want to say it like that.
And what is the name of the tough cities? Is it still there?
There's still the tough city in the Bronx. You have Lowbrow and Brooklyn. That is like the two shops. And then of course you have Scrapyard on Manhattan.
Cool. And now being back in Copenhagen, how you gonna earn your money? Is it the artist life that you live, or
artist life? I've basically been doing like everything, like that's been, revolving around like, spray painting. I mean, I've been doing like when I was in New York, I both did like a bit of commission jobs, also helped like project managing some exhibitions, like like just like different stuff, and it's basically the same that I've been doing, for the past many years. Like somebody needs like a commission, somebody needs like whatever. So and then of course like I also do my own stuff, like so it's like one big mix of everything.
So let's try to explain because I believe some people probably don't have the picture. Like what are you doing at the moment? As far as I could see, it is like a bit of what you are doing on walls.
It's a bit of like what like I always been doing. Like I really try to work with the space that I got. it's still I at least for me, you know, it has like has a feeling of the graffiti, but it's not graffiti, you know, and then it has a bit of like graphic elements, you know, like, and basically how I do it is you know, sketch and like work on it from the sketch, and then, you know, like I put it into the computer, and then I work from, you know, from there, you know, like
yeah,
give it, you know, some effects and stuff, you know, like, and then it's painted, you know, so it's through like different kinds of what do you call it, different processes, you know.
So it's like adjusted. It's like a small like adjusted frame from let's say a piece that you probably would do on this wall, but of course the space and the size is different. So that's why you're going to do it in that way, or is it that you just don't want to paint a piece on that wall?
It's more like to do something different, you know. Like, I mean, I've been painting pieces for so many years. And I just think, you know, like suddenly, you know, like I had just had the urge to do something else, something just totally different.
Are you happy with this actual, let's say, status of what you're doing?
I mean, you know, like with everything I do, you know, like I afterwards, you know, like I'm like, okay, you know, what is working, what is not working, you know, like what should I do better next time, you know. It's a learning process, you know, like it, and for me, you know, like painting that stuff, you know, is still quite new, so there's still so much to learn, you know, and there's still so much things, you know, like, so there's some things where I'm like, okay, you know, like this is not to be done again, you know, and there's something like where I'm like, okay, you know, like this is actually working.
Yeah, that's what you're also doing on canvas, right?
Yeah,
like this. That's also the way you're gonna paint the canvas. So what do you mean by if it works or not? You mean it works for you or for people?
If it works for me, you know, like it's like, you know, again with the piece, you know, like if it was just a piece, then if, you know, what matters, you know, like is if it works for me, you know, like it's okay if people come and tell me like, oh, that's a nice piece, you know, like, but if I don't like the piece, you know, I don't like it, you know, and that's then it just don't have the same value. Like, I think everybody that is involved in graffiti, you know, like they know this feeling.
So when you look at graffiti artists' careers at the moment, right? And if you ask them how far you would go, you know, so most of them replying, it's like maybe like a 30, 40, maximum 50%, and there's still a long way to go when it comes to your own style and your own way to work on different medias, like not a graffiti wall, like a canvas in different sizes, or like a mural or whatever it is, you know. Because I also could see in the last year some murals from you, right? And some murals you painted like in the regular graffiti way, and some murals you actually tried something else.
It has, you know, it took me some time, you know, like to actually get, you know, what do you call it, like even like the courage to do something different, you know. I've been painting graffiti for like 20 years, so suddenly going out spraying something new, it was you know, like it took some time for me to be like, okay, now I'm doing it, you know, like.
But it also feels good.
Yeah, it feels amazing, you know, like that, and that is actually, you know, like the reason why I keep on doing it, you know, like because it's something new, you know, it's new grounds for me, you know, to break, you know, like it's know, like if you know, like sometimes like you can go out and do a piece, you know, even though that it has like new color combination, you know, like the letters are different, you know, it's quickly just can become, you know, like just another piece.
How much do you think of your artwork before? Is it like colors, forms? You know, how much blending is in this? I mean, is it the same as you do a piece? I believe when you do a piece, you have a sketch and you probably have like a color combination that you picked before, and that's it.
Yeah.
The rest is like, is it the same?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You know, like also, you know, like the walls that I'm doing with this stuff is usually way bigger. So that goes way more planning into it. You know, like planning. You know, like colors. Planning on like where and how to do it. You know, like just you know, like also to save time actually.
But it's not like that you fix the colors and say, okay, from now on, I'm only using that colors for the murals, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that.
I know that there's a lot of people, you know, like that, you know, like stick to certain colors, you know, and that kind of like becomes a part of their brand or and even their name, you know, like, but no, at least for now, you know, like, again, it's also something that I haven't been doing for like millions of years, so like maybe it will end up there, I don't know, you know, like right now it's just all new and it's like very exciting, you know, like so I'm just trying, you know, like all these new different techniques and, you know, like different ways to do it, you know.
When you painted that wall in Paris, the Lemur, is it Lemur?
Yeah.
When they requested you to paint the wall, how long does it take for you to make the decision? What you actually paint there? What you have done at the end of the day, or like a regular graffiti piece?
I knew already, you know, like that I wanted to do something different, you know, like that than like normal.
Because I could see that there were also other people before you. Some people painted in the regular graffiti way. Some tried something new. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think, you know, like to be honest, you know, like when I had the possibility to do it, you know, I wanted to do something new, something you know, like yeah. So that was why I decided from the very beginning, you know, like that I just wanted to do like something non-typical graffiti.
Yeah. But this is a really nice one.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it too. You know, like I was really happy with it. You know, like I was very like excited about getting invited to paint the wall in the first place. I saw so many, you know, like before me painting it. You know, like Matt C painted it, Smash painted it, It's a B painted it. You know, like and the list goes on. You know, so I was really like happy to be invited. You know, as well.
But I still haven't found out about the story behind the wall, because we had this wall on our blog for like many years now. I think maybe since day one we posting pictures from this wall. Do you know what is the story about the wall? Who's behind the wall?
Like, I mean, you know, like there's a whole like organization behind the wall, you know, like that is taking care of the wall, you know, like that's taking care of like who's getting invited to paint it, you know, and yeah, you know, like buffing the wall, you know, like supplying ladders and so on and so forth.
But is it the gallery behind it?
It's what I know is that it's a non-profit organization. You know, like there is a small fee for the artist, you know, like, but that mainly goes to take care of like flight tickets, a place to stay, you know, like art suppliers and stuff. You know, it's not. You know.
Yeah.
So.
So how come being in crew with the Bandits crew in Germany?
I mean, I met you know, like a lot of like the people from Bandits very early on. You know, like I met Matt C, like when we did the whole Molotov and Friends thing. You know, like I met Slider on this Right for Gold tour. I met Vogue, you know, like painting stuff in Germany, you know, like so many, you know, like so many times I bumped into him, and you know, we became really good friends. So like after being friends for more than 10 years, you know, like we kind of like talked, and, you know, like they were like, okay, you know, like maybe it's time for you to be a part of the crew, you know. And of course, you know, like they are all doing amazing stuff that is really, really close to what I've been doing for so many years. So like it was a good match.
Yeah. I think also between Matt Z and you is also some kind of strong friendship, isn't it? That's actually what
I mean, you know, like if I should pick like a person, you know, like that is in newer times have been really important for me in terms of style, in terms of like motivation, you know, in you know, like it for sure, Matt Z, you know, like as super important friend, you know, like
yeah. I mean,
so maybe not not in terms of like style direct, but, you know, like more in terms of motivation and
yeah.
doing different stuff, you know, especially doing different stuff, you know. She's been really important, breaking out of the whole, you know, graffiti view on everything.
I never met a person who take this all more serious than her, you know.
I think I never met a person that takes like she is like a machine, you know, like there is nothing that she can't do, you know, like she's like, I mean, you know, like you've seen it, you know, like she'll paint, you know, like fucking huge as wall, you know, with crazy concepts, you know. She'll do all that by herself, you know, like nobody, you know, like it doesn't matter if it's a cartoony style, you know, if it's some hyper realistic type shit, you know, like she'll do it all by herself, you know, like she's like a one-man army, you know, like there's nothing that she can't do, you know, like, and there's never anybody that can take away from her that she's probably, or she is one of the hardest working people, like in both graffiti and, you know, like what comes after this, you know, like this whole like urban contemporary, whatever you want to call it, you know, like mural game, you know, like she's definitely one of the most hardworking. Can be no doubt about it.
Yeah, and there should be a new Sutton Matt Z wall.
Yeah, well, I hopefully soon, you know, like, but I mean, I'm usually pretty busy, but, you know, like if I'm busy, you know, like then Matt Z is, you know, like.
I remember there was a plan that we all meet,
I mean, you
right?
know, like I think we've been trying to plan this like a couple of times, but, you know, like, you know, it's a you know, like the more people that is getting involved, you know, like the more timetables there is to to fit in.
Especially when someone is based in New York, then it's even harder.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like, and then also, like, I actually, like, she was in Copenhagen. Yeah, it must be last summer, I think. Painting, you know, like a huge a huge wall, where we also talked about spraying something together afterwards, and you know, in the end, you know, we were both like, okay, you know, like let's just, you know, like chill, you know, and do something else, you know, like just something non-graffiti, you know, because it's not only like a friendship that is based on graffiti, you know, it's also like a friendship that is based on, you know, like
Henrik, there's one question that I also want to ask you, how much you are basically into style writing, because this is like a movement in the movement, right? So
you know, like first of all, you know, like I think there's basically like a lot of like different movements within
That's
you
true.
know, like within the, you know, like the graffiti movement, and style writing is definitely one of them. How much am I into to style writing? I mean, I'm always trying, you know, like to, you know, like at least when I'm sketching, you know, like I'm always trying, you know, like to change some things, you know, and I know like my pieces is not changing, you know, like drastically from one piece to the other, but you know, like I'm always like trying to see like, okay, you know, like maybe here you can change something, maybe you can stretch something here, you know, like you know, so I'm definitely, when I'm sketching and when I'm painting, I'm thinking a lot about the style, you know, and for me, you know, like style is one of the most important things, you know, like in graffiti. I think for me at least, you know, like everything else is secondary, you know, like it doesn't really matter if it's on a train or if it's on a wall or, you know, wherever it is, you know, like it's mostly, you know, like the style is number one for me.
Yeah, you could also...
So I guess, you know, you can kind of like say maybe I'm a style writer in that sense, you know, like, but yeah, it's not something that I, you know, like if I'm talk to people, you know, I will say like, hey, I'm a style writer, you know, like it's...
Yeah. Yeah, but it's still very interesting because there are no books about it. There's nothing, no media really covered that part of the movement, right? So it's a really interesting point, talking to people who are really into lettering and, you know, and studying the letter like nothing. It's crazy, you know. So
yeah, I think it's very 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 little, you know, like that's written about it. You know, I think actually as we speak, you know, I'm looking at this book on my shelf, you know, saying Graffiti Burners that I remember Underground Productions put out. You know, it's a little small format.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, like that is actually the closest that there is to something about, you know, like this style writing topic. But, you know, like it's such a small thing.
The foundation of your style is the Danish style, right? Isn't it? You can say that, right?
I would say that it's like kind of like a mix of, or yeah, it's you can kind of say like it's like a Danish 90s style, you know, like, you know, like, which again really is inherited by, you know, like so much of the New York shit. So again, you know, like I feel like that, you know, like it should be more like the New York that is take the credit for it.
You mean the subway art movement?
Yeah,
that's the foundation of everything.
That's kind of like the foundation, you know, like there's so many, of course, like when it reached Denmark, you know, and it, you know, went through, like it evolved from there, you know, and then I picked up on it, you know, like, so it's like, it's under like it's constantly evolving, you know, like, but again, you know, like the basics, you know, like of that kind of writing that I do, I would, you know, like say comes from New York.
Yeah.
And you know, like the people that passed that on to me, you know, like I guess they would say the same. So
true, yeah, and you could also see how you constantly working on that style still. You know, you haven't really changed. You know, I can speak for myself. I'm always trying to, you know, get away from some style at some point, you know, and to do something completely different. That's what you never did, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I never, until now that I started trying to do something totally different, you know, like that is non-graffiti.
Yeah.
But as long as I've been doing graffiti, I always been working on you know, like on that same kind of style, you know, like I always watched, you know, like as soon as it came like out of trend, you know, people would switch up and, you know, like suddenly be on it, you know, whether it was doing like flare outlines or people had to do like 3D graffiti or whatever was, you know, like the popular thing at that time, you know, like I always felt like just constantly working on, you know, like what I was already doing, you know, like I think, you know, for me, it becomes not too interesting, if I see like an artist, like that is constantly changing, with all these type of like trends that come and go.
Yeah.
And again, like the whole term on like style writing is more or less dying out, like it's not as important as, like let's go 10, 15, 20 years back, like style writing was really important, but like I think, like the whole thing of graffiti is also changing, like people also get into graffiti in different ways these days, like
yeah.
when like you and I started out, like we really had like this America can like look on it, because that's the way that we got it, like again Style Wars, Beat Street, like all that stuff, like so that was how we looked on graffiti, like people that get into graffiti, like today, like I even had talks with people saying, like they got into graffiti because of like Mark Echo's game Getting Up, like so it's like suddenly like people get into graffiti for like in a whole different way, like so of course like it's changing, and with that like this kind of like style writing hip hop way is dying out a bit.
Yeah, which has different reasons, I believe, but it's not a bad thing if you ask me.
No, like
it's a new thing, like, but it's not a bad thing. So
it's just like the evolution of it, like if it dies out, it dies out. Like I will continue to paint, like the stuff that I'm doing, like as long as I want to, like in the day I don't want to do it anymore, like then, like it's done.
That's what you mentioned with trends and stuff. There's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, since you started, how many trends you actually survived?
I mean, and again, like I only been painting for 20 years, like there's so many that's been painting for even longer time. So you can only imagine like how much stuff that they have seen. I would say that I've seen quite a few trends come and go. And that is just the evolution of it, like of course I could sit back and be a bitter man and being like, hey, like it's not like it was when I was young, when I started out, like, but hey, like the world is changing, constantly, some for the bad, some for the better, like, and that's just how it is, like I'm doing me, and if other people want to do it in another way, like, hey, that's up to them, like I don't own graffiti, like I didn't create it, like I'm not the first nor the last writer, like so. I feel like graffiti it belongs in the hands of those that are actually painting it, like so for those that paint it, like, hey, this is yours. Do with it what you want, like that's just how it is, like don't let anybody dictate or tell you how it's done, like that's at least like how I always went about it.
But just to get a better idea about your taste, looking at, without naming anyone, but you could see people having comebacks or second springs, painting many trains again or many walls or whatever. When you compare this to what they did like 20, 25, 30 years before, what you like more? Like the older stuff from back in the days or what they are doing now?
It's a hard question, like because if let's say that you're this super legend from Hamburg, like that influenced so many people, like, and you had like a break and then you came back, like you were the master back then, like, and now you're and at that time you were in the peak of your, like it's just like everybody knows like you're peaking at a certain age, and you were at that age and you were peaking then, like, and then you leave it alone and then you come back, like 15, 20 years older, and then you have to compete with that, like that's not even fair, like I will say, the really iconic pieces were made back then, but I really enjoy seeing them come back and give it a second shot, like I don't see them, like outdoing themselves, but I really enjoy seeing them coming back because I love the style, like, and they were so important for me, so.
And then there are looking at Stockholm, for example, and then there are people who never stop.
There is a guy up there, like that we both know, and he never stopped, like I mean, like, again, we can mention names, like Chaos is like, it's not even king status anymore, I mean, it's even above like, like legend level, it's like, it's more like something kind of like god status or something, when you've been going so crazy for so many years, hey,
I think there's only two names for the most notorious graffiti writers in Europe. This is definitely Chins and Chaos. And then
these two guys are definitely in some crazy league of their own. I like they've been a part of it since the beginning. They're still going. Like it's nobody can ever reach. Like this status. Like nobody can ever be a part of all that stuff that they've been a part of. Like. Yeah, it's really, 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 really crazy. Like been going on for so many years and keeping up with so many, young generations. It's like,
yeah, those two stories are really nice to cover for a book or something.
You can have a book that is thicker than like the Bible, and still you will not get half of the stories. Like again, it's close to 40 years of painting. Like how can you capture that in one book? It's it's close to impossible. Like and again, like this is like, I think it's really important to say again and again, like this is. Their status is crazy, and again, like how they still like in this age, like outpaint so many young guys. Like this would be Michael Jordan outplaying LeBron James. Like today, like this is what it is. Like this is
yeah, that is true. Henrik. Last question. One of the last questions.
Yes.
What is the? I mean, it's hard to talk about the future at these days. But what is your actual plan for the next month? So going back to New York, or?
I mean, like right now, like I can't go back to New York, because of like the whole pandemic, and actually the country is closed down.
It's also your wife staying there, isn't it?
Yeah. But like that's like you deal with like life the way that you have to, But I mean, right now I can't go back to the States. I think like there's only two people, like, and one is God, and the other one is Trump. Like that knows when the border is opening up.
You had the same in Copenhagen, right? You had to stay home and couldn't really leave just for shopping, and that's it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you could go outside your door, and you could do whatever, like, but. Like restaurants closed down, like big part of the society closed down, so there wasn't really that much to do, and at the same time, like you couldn't leave the country either, like because nobody is flying. So
what kind of guy you are? Are you taking it serious, like in keeping the distance and wearing the mask everywhere and stuff like that, and not going out painting while lockdown was still going on.
I mean, you know, like graffiti is pretty much the most antisocial thing that you can do, you know, like so
This is true.
I mean I did a lot of painting, you know, like and I mean also like we should make more jokes about it, you know, like we were wearing, you know, like fucking, you know, gloves and wearing masks, you know, before it became, you know, trendy. But you know, of course, you have to take it serious. You know, like it's. I'm not gonna tell you that this is all like a government thing, you know, and it's actually not existing, you know. Like I believe it's real.
You are not that conspiracy,
you know,
type of guy.
No, I'm I'm not. You know, I'm not a flat earther either. You know.
Nope, no. Oh, thought I can talk with you another hour for this about this. How flat is the Earth? Come on, tell me.
How flat is it? so I'm definitely taking it very serious, you know, like but again, you know, like I do miss traveling, you know, and I hope that traveling will be possible too.
Yeah. What do you miss the most in these days?
I just think that you know, like I just miss adventure, you know, like again, I haven't been staying at the same place for such a time period in like 10, 15 years, you know, like I can't remember when I sat down the same place, you know.
Because
like,
the reason why I asked you about taking it serious or not was also because I heard that when the whole shit started, you actually tried to go Norway, whatever it takes.
I think I know the guy that told you this. Yeah, I mean, you know, like I definitely wanted to go to Norway. You know, it's also so important to say. You know, it was about money. You know, like so, and I am in that situation. You know, like where I can't really turn down money. You know, like if it was like a concert, you know, like, or if it was like a party or whatever, you know, like then I would have been easily like no, but you know, it was actually like, you know, making a living, you know, so I definitely had to stretch as far as I could, but you know, like Norway was in the end, you know, like guarded with their army and stuff, so like this wasn't like possible, so I had to stay home.
Yeah. You can also say that it was Slider who told me this when I did the...
What was it, Slider?
Slider, yeah, I think it was when we did the podcast for Isle of Graffiti. Yeah. I think. Yeah, it was really funny because on the one hand you have this very scary kind of guy when it comes to traveling, you know.
He's a very careful person, you know.
Not scary, but he's very careful when it comes to traveling. And you're, come on, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, I think, you know, like that is why we are such a funny combo sometimes, you know, like it's very, very, very opposite.
Yeah. So I don't know how it is in Denmark, but Germans can fly out Germany within Europe from Monday on. Is it the same in Denmark?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like basically we can go wherever we want. You know, like the government is just only like saying, you know, like it's okay to travel to Norway, Greenland, and Germany. Mm-hmm. That is kind of like the three countries that our government is giving the thumbs up.
If you want to go Italy or Spain or Greece, that's...
if I want to go to Italy, you know, and I can find a flight, you know, like then I can go. Like there's nobody that is keeping me from that. But the question is, if I want to go, you know, like that is the whole question.
You're not.
Then of course when you're coming back, you know, like they are asking you like maybe you should self quarantine, you know, in the 14 days.
No, that's what they not do in Germany.
Okay.
I actually
Yeah,
booked
but
my first flights
at least,
now.
at least they are advising people to do that here. But you know, like,
Cool. Then yeah. But to answer the question, no plans for the future.
to answer the question, I have plenty of plans for the future. You know, like it's more about like how they will go. Like, but something that is very specific. You know, like I had I'm being part of like a part of a group show with the Dortmund Gallery that I'm a part of. So I'm currently in the studio making some studio works for that, and then I have like some walls that are like maybe coming up, both graffiti and more art related. So yeah, definitely. I'm not sitting on my hands, you know, and I'm not standing still. So
it's hard to plan something at these days, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm doing my best.
Roskilde is also not going down this year, right?
Roskilde is cancelled. Every festival in the country is cancelled.
Drama for the Danes, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. You know, like it's a that you know, like I think the Roskilde Festival is probably one of the most important festivals that we have. You know, like so yeah.
Cool. Nice. Then good luck for the future, and fingers crossed that Corona is over soon and everyone can follow up on these projects and stuff like that, like you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Have a nice evening. Talk soon.
Same to you. Ciao.